Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Thursday, September 28th. Over the next few days, we will have some changes to our weather and fire potential across the Great Basin. First, we will start to see an increase in winds today over southern areas of the Great Basin, with south to southwest winds gusting between 25 and 30 miles per hour, with low relative humidity as a cold front approaches the northwest. As this cold front gets closer on Friday and Saturday, we will see much stronger winds over central and southern areas of the Great Basin on Friday. This will also be coupled with lower relative humidity. So we certainly could see some runs if we have some new starts or some holdovers in these areas with the gusty winds as they increase to about 40 or 45 miles per hour on Friday in this area in brown. We'll also have some gusty winds along the Sierra front on Friday, but relative humidity will already start increasing as that front approaches. On Saturday, the front really starts to move in, pushing precipitation over the western half of the Great Basin with high elevation snowfall as well as much colder temperatures. And it will push these stronger winds and drier conditions a little bit further east into Utah for one more day. No precipitation or lightning across the Great Basin. We did have some showers and thunderstorms skirt the far northern areas in central Idaho. Great Basin fire activity yesterday was light, with 5 fires reported for just over 2 acres. Over the last 7 to 14 days, we have had precipitation mainly in northern and central areas of the Great Basin, with drier areas over central and southwest Idaho into much of the western half of Nevada and parts of central and eastern Utah. ERCs have remained low, but again, we do have a few spots that are popping up above the 50th or even 70th percentile with ERCs as we've seen these warmer and drier conditions, especially in areas that haven't seen as much precipitation. Our grasses, however, are still dried along with our brush that is still dried in many areas. So again, that'll be the main concern as we see these windier conditions move in starting today and more so Friday and Saturday. The satellite loop from this morning shows the trough of low pressure. You can see the low near the southern Alaska coast. That will continue dropping south towards the Great Basin. So again, we will start to feel those winds increase today, but more so going into the weekend. So for later today, still drier conditions with those breezy conditions down south. Our significant fire potential remains generally low region-wide. However, with the winds, we could see a brief uptick in fire potential in southern areas during the windy conditions during the afternoon. So for today, again, the driest conditions are over southern areas where RHs will be between about 10 and 12%, and we will see those winds gusting generally in the 20s to between 30 and 35 miles per hour at the strongest areas. As we move into Friday, this is where the winds really start to increase and that trough and cold front start to drop south in the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. So we will see some higher humidities up in northwest Nevada and Idaho, and those stronger winds really increase over southern areas of the Great Basin. We didn't include any high risk as fuels, again, really aren't overly critical in those areas, but certainly in the lower elevation grasses and dried brush areas, as those winds pick up, we could see fire potential briefly pick up. And these winds, especially with this cold front moving in, will likely be longer lasting than our typical afternoon and evening breezes. They'll likely start earlier in the morning and may even continue overnight. So we could have a 48-hour period of really breezy to stronger winds. So for Friday, again, the relative humidity remains generally in the teens across much of Nevada and Utah, but those stronger winds are really over southern and eastern Nevada into western Utah, and then somewhat still over eastern Utah. But the strongest winds definitely along the Utah-Nevada border, where those gusts could be 40 to 45 miles per hour. As we move into Saturday, the cold front really starts to swing through the Great Basin. However, looks like early on Saturday, we'll still have those gusty to strong winds over southern and central areas of the Great Basin. So again, keeping that yellow on the significant fire potential map for that Friday night and then the first half of Saturday period before the moisture moves in. But you can see from the cold front a very strong area of low pressure. This will bring widespread higher humidity and precipitation along with higher elevation snowfall. Relative humidity is obviously reflected with this moisture and remain above 40% across much of the western half of the area. Again, we still have those stronger winds over southern and eastern Nevada into western Utah, although relative humidity will start increasing, but mainly late in the day. So early in the day, still some risk for some issues with fire potential before that moisture moves in. And then the drier and windy conditions get shifted into eastern and southern Utah. The 3-day amount of precipitation, the heaviest precipitation, most widespread wetting rains, will be generally over central and northern Nevada and then into the Sierra along with up into central Idaho. And again, these areas, anywhere from the Sierra up into Idaho and northern Nevada, is where we will see those higher elevation snowfall as well. And then some lighter precipitation, at least before the front really starts to move east across parts of Utah going through the Saturday time period. However, by Sunday, this trough continues to swing south and east, pushing that moisture eastward. Our significant fire potential significantly drops going through the weekend, with the colder temperatures that will also be dropping about 15 to 20 degrees from what we saw just a day or so ago. So a significant cold front moving through the region. And then by Monday, this precipitation continues to move eastward along with the low, so most of the moisture will be over the eastern half of the Great Basin, finally decreasing fire potential over eastern Utah. And then by Tuesday, still some lingering showers over far eastern areas before drier and warmer conditions return Wednesday as the stronger ridge of high pressure rebuilds along the west coast. However, our fire potential will still remain low as even warmer and drier conditions will still take quite a bit of time if they were ever to recover for this time of year. 7-day total precipitation, you can see most areas of the Great Basin getting at least showers, if not significant wetting rains and higher elevation snowfall. Some of the areas that may see only light amounts or very little would be far southern Nevada, parts of the Arizona Strip, and parts of southeast Utah. The 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us from October 5th through the 11th, shows continued cooler and wetter patterns as we will see additional cold fronts move through the region towards the middle of the month. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.